all the way back in the year 2008. When all you really had to play was shooters, there was one game that came around that was nothing like anything else you had ever played before and has ever been made since. If you couldn't tell what the game was by the thumbnail, I am talking about Mirror's Edge. This game did things completely differently. Instead of a game about being a one-man army and shooting through waves and waves of people, this was the opposite. This game was all about freedom, speed, and flowing through a city. To be real, I'm not normally a fan of parkour. I'm not some parkour junkie over here who pops parkour videos like your auntie pops Percocets. But even I got swept away in a first-person parkour game because after you've played it, how could you not? It's something you've never seen before. So let's go through and let's talk about why Mirror's Edge is one of the greatest games of all time. Now, if you've never heard of the development company DICE, then you probably just don't pay attention because they make all the Battlefield games. And I know you've heard of Battlefield. In 2008, they decided they was going to do something completely unheard of that nobody has even come close to doing since, and nobody had done up until this point. They decided that they were going to make a first-person parkour game. And I don't know what was running through their head, because if I'm one of the big wigs up there in the boardroom meetings and somebody came to me with this, I'd be like, dude, you're not making a first-person parkour game. You guys are going to make something that fucking sucks and doesn't make any sense, and nobody's going to want to play it. But it's a good thing that I wasn't in that position because I would have been completely fucking wrong. Back then, all you really had was games like Call of Duty that were absolutely dominating gaming, and the fact that they decided to take such a huge risk shows some serious fucking balls. I can't even imagine how hard it must have been back in that day to try to market this game like, yeah, you guys are used to explosions and action and grenades and AK-47s and shooting people in the face and blowing shit up and storming Normandy and shit like that. We're gonna make a game where you just run across rooftops. That's it. You don't do anything. You really can't fight or nothing. You're just gonna be running. I don't know how you would market that game. Now, don't get me wrong. It didn't sell like crazy or anything, but it did end up being one of the most innovative games ever made, and it influenced games in the future. Games like Dying Light and Titanfall, and a lot of the games where they really focus on movement and speed and agility, at least in line or even more so than the combat, you can really thank Mirror's Edge for just about all of that. Everything that you was used to in first-person shooters as a one-man army taking 472 7.62 rounds to the chest like a god was all bullshit. It was thrown out in this game. They did not have any of that. You didn't want to fight. Somehow they managed to make a game that went beyond just complete focus on violence, instead focusing on getting away from the violence and giving you some sense of self-preservation, which was honestly like a different kind of empowerment. The parkour system of this game is the bread and butter. It is what the game is. It blows my mind that here we are years later and nothing has even come close to matching this game. Like, nothing plays like this. Nothing played like it up until then, and nothing still plays like it. It has been so long and nobody has made a game yet that is even close to what this game was. Back in 2008, the entire focus was on the parkour system. It was all about smooth movement, running up walls, climbing, momentum, and trying to get from spot to spot and through all these different world transitions in a seamless way, so that way you can maintain as much speed as possible. And the thing about this is that it was pretty hard. Whenever people first got into the game, you were fucking dog shit. There was nothing fast or fluid about your movement at all. You drop somebody in and they look like Velma from Scooby-Doo, like, where's my glasses? But then over time, as you play and you keep playing, you get better and you get faster. And the more that you play, the more satisfying the game gets. It actually felt like you was progressing and you could see yourself getting better. It's not like Call of Duty where you drop into a lobby and there's some fucking hard sweat Cheeto finger covered smearing all over his keyboard because he's played 18 hours a day. He don't sleep and it's all he plays. Dude's got 3,000 hours and the game's been out a month. Now, don't ask me how that's possible because I'm pretty sure there's not anywhere close to 3,000 hours in a month, but these fucking neckbeard tryhards transcend time, I swear. It was just you in this world, which is honestly missing from gaming nowadays because everything is multiplayer. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy multiplayer games, but everything is multiplayer, and a lot of the times people are sleeping on good single player experiences, especially games like this that tried to do shit different, because getting better in Mirror's Edge is one of the most satisfying things ever. Whenever you start like a fucking toddler and you're just bumbling around, tripping over your own feet, and then you get to the point where you can run through all these different obstacles across rooftops, up buildings, and you're doing it seamlessly and quick as shit, that feeling of fluidity is still something I haven't experienced since I played this game in 2008. shit. Now, it wasn't like they left you out to dry when you got into the game for the first time. They did have a mechanic called runner vision, and if you look at the world, it's entire whitewashed, just bleached, just completely devoid of color in any way, but the runner vision gave you some guidance. It helped you figure out where you needed to go because obstacles that were in line with the direction that you was going and could help you get to where you needed to go would glow red. And they were a bright red, so they really stuck out against all this just sanitized, solid white backdrop of a city. And that's another thing that makes it interesting because whenever you're new and you don't know where to go, you can leave that on and you can run through the levels and you can kind of get a sense of what you should be doing because they'll guide you in the right direction. But then you can turn it off and you can really make your own paths because there are multiple ways to go where you need to go. And even if you go the same way, I guarantee you after the second time, you're not going to do it the same way, even taking the same path, because you're going to be better at the game and you're going to be faster. And yes, I know that now a lot of kids are like all into only open world games, but this game is a linear game, so you have levels. It's not an open world free roam 272,000 different collectibles and 400 side missions of the same fucking fetch quest over and over again. This game tells you a story. It drops you into a level, it gives you a few of them, and you run through them as fast as you can. There's no bullshit to it. That's it. That's what you do. It's not complicated. It's just fun. And this is back when games were made to be fun. And don't get me even started on that shit, because back in like the PlayStation 2 days, I'm about to sound like a grandpa, all these games were only made to be fun. This game didn't have 400 microtransactions, all cosmetics trying to get you to buy shit, or even some pay-to-win nonsense that makes you actually run faster. There was nothing. It was just you. And I miss when gaming was like that. Okay, let me stop sounding like a fucking grandpa over here. Let me put my walker away and let's talk about the combat. Because this game did have combat, but you didn't want to fight because you played as Faith, and Faith will get her ass beat by everybody. She cannot fight worth a shit. The game didn't want to lead you to confrontation. The game wanted to focus on fluidity and either avoiding them entirely, which was the best way to do it, or you could disarm them. You really couldn't fight. Like, she can punch, but she can't punch worth of shit. Now, this is something that I could imagine some people in reviews saying that, oh, the combat sucks, when they don't understand that the entire point of the game is to not use the combat. The combat is supposed to be impossible. You're not supposed to use it. Really, for me, I feel like it's there so you can use it, get your shit pushed in, and then realize that you're not supposed to use it at all. It was literally the exact opposite of all the FPS games up until this point, because in other games, there was no actual running besides sprinting for 4 seconds and then running out of breath and then you pull out your fucking M16 and just gun down 16 different people at the same time, where this was the opposite. You couldn't fight anybody. That one-man army shit was gone. And I think that that was a bold move and probably something that turned a lot of people off from it at the time, because back then, FPSs was all people knew. All people knew was shooting people in the face. I wonder now that the market has been so saturated with the same shit over and over again, if this game was released today instead of then, how it would have done. There are even these enemies that also know parkour. I guess the city has trained them up so that way they could actually try to fight off some of these parkour addicts. And there is nothing more stressful than when you're running across these rooftops and these fuckers are chasing you, because they will destroy you, and you have to be on your best game. You have to be running through here as clean as possible, because if you start making mistakes, they're going to catch up and they're going to beat the dog shit out of you. And that really just pushed you to get better at the game, because not only are you running towards something, you're running away from something. And the way that the game rewarded you is just, you got better at the game and it was its own reward. So whenever you go back through that level again and you're way better than you did it last time, you're being faster and cleaner, that is its own reward. And I feel like that is such a more satisfying reward than the game telling me, like, you did great, here's 200 coins, here's a gun skin, whenever I didn't even do anything except complete the level. I mean, that stuff has its place in gaming, but it's like, that's all there is. You finish this, here's your reward. Whereas this game was the reward. You had to reward yourself. One thing you'll notice if you play this game, and I'm sure you can notice it right now watching my gameplay of it, is the design of this city is completely different. The way that they designed it is, it's like this city that they wanted, not the actual developers, but the people in the city. It's like they built it as a utopia, but whenever you actually play the game, you find out it's a dystopia. Everything is so sanitized and just lacking of any emotion, and it's because that's what the game is set in, is a place that is trying to take you and control you, which which we'll get more into when we talk about the story in the next chapter. But running through this city and the way it looks, it's almost uncanny because it's unlike anything you've seen. The vibe that I get from this place, okay, imagine you're out front of your Walmart, you just got a Snickers because you're fat and you're hungry as shit, and you should have really got something else other than a Snickers, try a fucking Nutri-Grain bar, but you open that shit and you chow down that Snickers bar in all of 2 seconds and you drop the wrapper on the ground and a cop sees you. You're gonna get fined because you're littering, you piece of shit. Why are you littering? Like, cut that shit out. You're awful for that, okay? But in this city, you're not gonna get the fine. You ate that fucking Snickers and threw that wrapper on the ground, and you're gonna get the fucking death penalty. They're about to hang your ass. In fact, you probably wouldn't even have had a Snickers to begin with because they probably would have forced you to eat that fucking Nutri-Grain bar. And that's the kind of vibe that you get from this city. The city is its own story. There is story to this game, but this city tells its own story, and when you're running through it, you can't help but imagine the different things that are going on here and all the stories that are within it. Even though they don't show them directly, you can still perceive that they're there. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of games have really detailed cities and do a really good job of making them feel lived in and like they have their own stories to tell. Like Grand Theft Auto obviously does an amazing job of this. My last video, Dying Light, did a good job of this. Cyberpunk does an alright job of this. But the way that this game does it isn't like the way that the other games do it, because the other games do it by just mass amounts of detail. Trash littering the streets and people walking through and shit talking each other, cars running into each other and all that stuff, or dead bodies in Dying Light's case. But this game didn't do that. It didn't just overwhelm with sheer detail. It was much more subtle because it just, as you was in it, it made you think about it. You couldn't see it like the other cities in other games. You just thought about it. It was something that you really just perceived as you played, which is so interesting because I've never played another game where I was in the world and there wasn't a massive amount of detail in the world, but still I could feel connected to it like that. I could see other people's lives in it. Even down to the music when you're playing this game. It's just a vibe and it fits with what you're doing. And the song that is like the theme song and the song that plays in the outro of it, I will always remember forever. I wish the YouTube copyright system wasn't so whack because I would play it for you guys real fast, but I'm not trying to deal with none of that shit. But I will put it on the screen if you want to go listen to it if you haven't played this game. If you have played it though, I guarantee you know exactly what song I'm talking about that plays at the end of the game. Even the fucking menu music, dude. It's just iconic. If you've played it, you know it. You will recognize it in 0.2 seconds. And that's just what this game, it just hit. Alright, we've talked about the way that the game plays and the city that it's played in, so let's talk about the story and the characters a little bit, so that way you can get a little bit more of a sense of what the hell's going on. You play as a woman named Faith Connors, and she's a runner. And what does that even really mean that she's a runner? She just does parkour for a living? Well, not really. So what a runner is in this world is they are such an oppressive city that they dictate all your messages. Like, you can't just send somebody a letter or write somebody an email and it have some shit that the city doesn't want you to say or information that they don't want the people receiving it to know. They can't have that. They will lock that shit down. So you have these runners, people like Faith, who will take messages from people and they will deliver them to other people without the government ever getting a chance to get in between it. And honestly, that was enough for me because it just seems like such an interesting concept in and of itself that would have hooked me anyways. But then, I'm not gonna spoil it and tell you who, but somebody is murdered and they try to frame Faith's sister Kate for the murder. And so the whole game you spend trying to clear her name, and really it's like this entire battle of freedom versus control in this authoritarian state. There isn't an immense amount of cutscenes or dialogue. You have these cool animated cutscenes that are pretty stylistic in between chapters, but other than that, and a little bit of dialogue within the chapters, a lot of the story is left for you to interpret, and it doesn't just throw everything in your fucking face, which is something that I'm just now realizing as I'm recording this video that I didn't really think about before, and just how much more immersive that is, because the game doesn't tell you every single little thing and hold your hand like a big fucking baby. The game wants you to read between the lines. And I can't remember the last time I had a game have that much respect for me, because most games now expect you to be sitting there drooling on yourself after you go and grab mom's credit card and swipe it 42 times for all those different fucking cosmetics. Can't wait to play as the banana in Fortnite. Or, oh my god, Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty. Like, just fuck off with that shit, dude. But yeah, the story in Mirror's Edge, it's something simple, and it doesn't bash you over the head with it, and it's just enough to keep you engaged in a minimalistic way that I just absolutely fucking love. Now, to be real, when this game came out in 2008, I was a bit of a young blood, and I didn't pay any attention to critics or reviews or any of that shit, so I didn't know anything about that. I just seen some trailers for this game, and I was like, dude, that looks sick, and I want to play that. So my actual knowledge on the way that the game was received at the time is pretty limited, but I'm going to do my best to try to infer that from what I've seen online while I was looking shit up for this video. And really, the only positives I could see from people that weren't obviously big fans of the game, because we're not going to include those, but normal people, they really only liked the way that it looked, the fact that it was original, and the way that the movement felt, because the movement was crisp. Like, it's still the best movement of any game in my opinion. But I see a lot of people that don't like the unconventional design of the game, and the fact that there's really not any combat, and the fact that the combat's kind of clunky. I can't tell if it's because that's just not the kind of games that they enjoy, or that they just don't understand what this game is, because the combat is clunky because you play as a 5'4", I don't know if that's our actual height, like a 5'4" girl going up against fucking soldiers in full juggernaut suits with LMGs. No shit, the combat is clunky. What the fuck are you gonna do? You're not supposed to be able to fight them. The whole point is that she gets her ass beat. You don't want to fight, you want to run from people. And I wonder if some of these people got the game and then they got faced with these enemies and they're like, oh yeah, I'm about to fuck these guys up, and then realize that they're just getting their shit kicked in. And they were just like, oh man, this game ain't fun, this game sucks, and it's just because they didn't play the fucking game right. But because of all this, the game didn't sell great. Which, for what it is, I guess you couldn't really expect it to sell amazing because of how different it is already. It's not your hyperactive ADHD, cosmetic selling microtransaction, fucking modern day garbage. It's something unique. But the people that did play it and actually enjoyed it fucking loved it. And the game has the definition of a cult following. And I am telling you now, I'm a part of that cult following. I fucking love this game. This is one of the greatest games ever fucking made. And if you think I sound passionate about it, that's because I am. Because this game does not get the love that it deserves. And whether people realize it or not, they see a lot of this game in the games that they play today, because this game influenced so much in gaming today. Whether that be the way the games play, like Dying Light, and like Titanfall, and like Ghost Runner, or whether that be the way the games look, like Control and Superhot, where you have this super clean, bleach, sanitized look with all these themes of Control, which is funny because that game is called Control, of oppressive governments and rebellions. And it's so influential in ways that people don't even realize. And the fact that DICE managed to take that risk, and the fact that they were allowed to take that risk and make something so different, quite literally the antithesis, the opposite of every game that had come out up to that point, is simply amazing. Okay, I'm not gonna go in deep on this, but Mirror's Edge actually did end up getting a sequel. Well, it's technically not a sequel, it's a reboot in 2016, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. And I'm not gonna go in super deep on this game. If you want me to make another video on it, I will. But basically what they did is they took Mirror's Edge and then they made it open world and kind of fucked it all up. They took all the things that made the first Mirror's Edge special and they honestly ruined it. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Mirror's Edge Catalyst is a fucking shell of what Mirror's Edge is. But that begs the question, does Mirror's Edge still hold up today like it did all the way back in 2008? The answer is yes. Fuck yes. I still play this game today. I still boot it up time and time again. I still play it. And I'm not just saying that for the video's sake. I literally still boot this game up. You can go check my fucking Steam. And I still play it. And it still feels just as good as it did then. And it still feels better than the movement in any other game. The only game that even comes close is Titanfall. Maybe Ghost Runner, but even Ghost Runner's even more niche than this game is. This game still holds up, and if you haven't played it, you need to play it. Whatever system you're on, PC or console, you need to either go find an old PS3, play it on backwards compatible Xbox, buy it on PC, I don't care, you need to play it. You can watch somebody else play it, but you're never going to understand it unless you go and play this game yourself. And out of all the games that I'm ever going to recommend on this channel, this game is probably the most worth going and playing, just for the fact that you're going to get something that you've never played before in your life. And if you have played it, you're probably agreeing with every single thing that I've said so far. Mirror's Edge was a revolutionary game that took a massive risk in a fucking era that was dominated by nothing but shooters, and is still dominated by nothing but shooters. It managed to stick out and leave an impression of something that not only just so happened to be good, but happened to be one of the greatest fucking games ever made, and one of my most favorite games of all time. Unfortunately, people that don't know are gonna let this game fall to the wayside because it's a niche game. It took way too long to get a sequel. The sequel ended up being ass. When it came out, it got mixed reception, and a lot of people people just don't even really know, first of all, that this game is as good as it is, and some people don't even know that it exists, which should be a fucking crime. I'm gonna make my own oppressive government, and I'm gonna arrest anybody who doesn't give this game the respect that it deserves. You need to go play it. I'll almost always say that you can watch somebody play a game and still get a lot of the enjoyment out of it, like playthroughs and stuff on YouTube, but not with this one. You watching this video, you need to go play this game and play one of the most unique and amazing gaming experiences in fucking history. If I ever make a list on this channel of the games that I think are the greatest or my favorite of all time, I am telling you right now, without a doubt, this game will be in the top 3. Don't let this game be forgotten. Go and play it. Tell your friends about it. And if you enjoyed this video or you didn't, make sure to leave it down in the comment below how you felt about it and let me know. But I hope that you did enjoy it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.